There's yet another qualification saga involving the country's historic and iconic university. News 24 reports that Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane's qualifications might have been obtained illegally with the help of varsity insiders at the University of Fort Hare. The Premier has rebutted these reports this morning. We're looking at the credibility of tertiary institutions. Prof Ahmed Bawa is with the University of Johannesburg's Business School. He joins us now. Very good morning to you, Professor. Thank you for your time. I mean, with the prevalence of reports about fake and illegal qualifications, questions begin to resurface about the gaps which lie in protecting the integrity of the country's university sector. I mean, what do you make of these latest revelations?
No, they're deeply concerning, Mpo, and first of all, thank you for having me. They're deeply concerning, of course, and I think that we've had several kind of incidents of this now at several universities, and I think that they cast a very long shadow, if you like, on kind of the nature of our qualifications, the security of our qualifications, and so on. But at the same time, I think we should be careful, not to just think of this as a very general general and pervasive outcome of the education process at our universities. My sense is that there are 4 or 5 things that are really problematic. I mean, the first one is just the fact that many of our universities don't have proper governance systems in place, and partly that's due to, just the lack of continuity in leadership, in management, and so on. The second thing is that we've had a lot of instability, and the universities that have suffered the most in terms of what we are talking about today are universities that have all been under severe instability over the years. And what that means, in essence, is that universities just don't have the opportunity of creating the deep traditions, the deep management systems and so on, to try and ensure that this kind of stuff doesn't happen. The third thing is that we just don't have the depth of management. Of course, everything has to end up with the Vice-Chancellor because the Vice-Chancellor is the CEO. But actually, this kind of stuff really breaks down at the level of management. And what it's showing us, I think, is that the depth of management is very low. And then the last point I would make is that there are so many new, technology innovations that we can put to use now and which universities are putting to use. Which will prevent this from happening, But my suggestion really about all of this is that there really does need to be a very serious intervention from the Council on Higher Education, together with the councils of universities and with the leadership of universities. Each university, I think, should really go through an audit now, just to ensure that our qualifications are safe. Otherwise, 5 years from now, we might find this occurring on an annual basis, and that would undermine our qualifications very seriously.
So with all the challenges that you bring to the forefront, Professor, what will it take to have enough efficient systems in place to safeguard the systems against internal abuse?
Yeah, our universities have sort of very, very strong and kind of deep audit regimes, both internal audits and external audits. They are required by law to do those. So the one obvious thing to do is really for the CHE to work together with the councils and the universities to ensure that these examination systems, the graduation systems and so on, are all properly put in place and managed and so on. And that there are management systems that prevent this kind of fraud from happening. So that's the one thing. The second thing is just sort of ensuring that we have continuity in management, that there are people who've been doing this year after year after year, instead of sort of having people shifted from portfolio to portfolio, because there's nothing more important than experience, really, to keep these systems going. And that's why the old traditional universities don't have these problems, because they have these deep systems in place. So that's something that we should be looking at.
Yeah.
But, Mpo, I think what we have to come to grips with is that our universities are not islands. They are social institutions, so they are not immune to corruption. And so then we have to up the game of the universities to prevent corruption.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at the University of Fort Hare, for instance, an iconic institution which has been ground zero in a string of assassinations linked to entrenched networks of corruption. What happens now when it comes to, the credibility of the institution? What happens then? What needs to happen? And how much damage is there to the credibility of the institution?
Yeah, so first of all, I must really salute the leadership at Fort Hare. I think that they've taken a firm stand, and they're really putting in place kind of systems to try and prevent, corruption and so on. But at the same time, it seems to me that they have to try and ensure that the systems that they're putting in place are not just kind of on paper, that they are backed up with strong sort of management, if you like. And of course, the other side of this is that the state has to come to the party. The police have to come to the party. The NPA has to come to the party. When corruption is discovered, it shouldn't be left to the university to deal with the crimes. That should really be in the purview of the police and the NPA. And that often doesn't happen, unfortunately.
So with that not happening, what are the other possible penalties for institutions found to have been implicated in this illegal conduct as far as the governing of universities?
Well, the first thing is to take action against the staff members that are involved. And sometimes there are mistakes, and that's then a problem with the management systems. But very often it's really it's corruption, that drives these bad practices at the universities. So that's the one thing. And the second thing is to really just be very vigorous in ensuring that there's no kind of hesitation about acting on those suspectedly corrupt qualifications. Really taking a harsh stand and withdrawing those qualifications until such time that that there's clarity.
And when it comes to checking, what systems do you think need to be in place to detect this sooner rather than later?
Yeah, look, I have to tell you, I was Vice Chancellor at DUT, at Durban University of Technology. I can tell you that that the system at DUT is rigorous. And there's a lot of separation of duties and functions. So if there's going to be corruption, that corruption has to involve many, many people independently, So there are systems that work, It's not that that this is something that's kind of just magical, There are systems that work, and they have to be be put into effect. And again, I have to tell you that the secret at DUT was that there were individuals who kind of really understood that system and understood that segregation of duties, and and there just wasn't any kind of hesitation on my part to stand up for the veracity of those processes.
We spoke about the credibility, the possible credibility of one institution, but when it comes to South African universities as a whole, what does this do with these so-called fake qualifications on the global scale?
Yeah, look, I don't have any deep concerns at the moment. I think that our universities are functioning at a good level. I think they have good systems in place, except that every now and then we have these corrupt individuals, that kind of place those processes at risk. Now, those particular universities really do have to put in place systems that prevent this kind of corruption from taking place.
Yeah.
And that's why I really am suggesting that there's a collaboration, that this is not just a university's matter, that the Council on Higher Education steps in and really asks for a full audit of the examination processes at all 26 of the universities. For some of the universities, it'll be very easy. They just have to put together their processes and provide it to the CHE. For others, it'll be hard work to do.
Yeah. Thank you. Very well. Thank you so much for your time, Professor Ahmed Bawa from the UJ Business School, speaking around the qualification scandals, fake qualifications